So anyway, in my outbox, there's this folder called Lab Demo inside of Excel, and we're on to Tutorial 3, Chapter 3, whatever you want to call it. And so there's the spreadsheet I'll be working on this morning. You can follow along if you want. Okay. Again, here's the list of functions that you're going to need to know, and then some other things that you'll need to know from this chapter. And then your assignment for next week is to turn in all 4 case problems from the end of the tutorial 3. All right. So first thing I want to show you this morning, I don't know if it bugged you, but it bugged me. All right, let me back up a step here. They've obviously changed how Excel looks in the newest version here. And one of the things I didn't like was that I thought the stuff up here was too light. So I went to File, and it pulls this thing up. And then down here is Options. And where it says Office Theme, about 3/4 of the way down, the default is white. If I just say OK here. And so I thought this area was just too light for me. I didn't like that, especially on the screen I'm using on my own laptop. So if you want to change that, you just go File, Options, and you don't have a lot of choices. You can either do light gray or dark gray if you want something a little bit. It just makes it for a little bit more contrast up there. It makes it a little bit easier for me to find stuff just cause. All right? Do with what you want to do. Okay. So let's move on. Cell references. Okay. One of the things, if not the thing we like most about Excel, is that it's easy to write a formula in one place and to copy it down through in a row or across the column, or down the rows across the columns, however you want to do it. So here, I wanted to calculate each week's mean number of products that we sold, right? So we could do this simply by highlighting stuff like that and coming over here to auto sum and picking average. And that puts that formula in there. All right? Or you could type the thing in yourself, however you did it, but you put the formula there. That's great. Now the thing that we love most about spreadsheets is that now all I have to do here is, in the lower right-hand corner of that box, there's a little darker box. Everybody see that? Right down here in the lower right-hand corner, there's that little square dark dot. That's called the grab handle. And if you just put the cursor on that and double-click, it'll copy that that formula down through that column until it hits blank cells all the way around it. So I can just double-click here, and it automatically fills that formula in all the way down. And I've got something like 100 rows here. I got 52. What do I got? I got 98 weeks worth of data. And again, to get down there like that quickly, I just did Control down arrow, and it took me to the bottom. It took me to the last number in that column. And then I can just do Control up arrow, and it'll take me back up. Before they came up with spreadsheets, you'd have to write that formula over and over again, and you'd have to do that every time, which made very labor intensive, all that sort of stuff. That's what we like about that, because what it does when we copy this formula down, it said, okay, that's D4 to F4. And when I copied it down, it's now in row 5, so it wants to update that to D5 to F5, right? So this is called relative referencing. And wherever I copy that formula to, it's going to update the formula so that it works correctly. It's the way spreadsheets work. We don't really think much about it until we come along to something like this. That's great. Now, there's times when we don't want that to happen. So over here in this next example, we've got an amount and we want to apply a sales tax to it. Now, we could just simply do something like this. If we wanted to calculate the sales tax, it would be that times, let's say 8% be the sales tax, so we say times 8%, like that. And then again, we can copy that formula down, and we're done. Easy enough to do. But if the sales tax changes, we'd have to go back and fix all that sort of stuff. A better way to do this would be to change the formula so that we're referring to a cell and not to a number. In a good spreadsheet, the idea is most formulas should have just cell references in them and very few hard numbers. 8% would be called a hard number. We don't like that. That makes it hard to maintain a spreadsheet. It makes it easy for errors to creep in, all that stuff we don't like. So here I would just refer to that cell, and I just went up there and clicked on it and filled the formula in for me. And that works fine for that one. Or did it? Okay, yeah. I was sort of thrown off that because I didn't expect it to come out to $15 evenly, because I just saw that thing, which made me think my formula might be wrong, but I just added an extra decimal place. It does automatic rounding, right? We know that. So that's fine. But it's just me making sure I did everything right. Now, however, if I try to copy that down, I get this mess, right? I get error messages, and I get a number that's too big to put in a column. That's what this row of symbols means here, is the column's not wide enough, and so on. Well, what's happened, as we copied that formula down, it moved the cell references down, right? Originally, we told it to multiply the cell to the left to the one 2 cells above it. So it's going to follow that rule down here, multiply the cell to the left times 1 2 above it, which happens to be where the word sales tax lies. Well, a number times a letter is undefined. It's an error message. It doesn't know what to do with it. So in this case, we don't want it to do the relative referencing where it updates the formulas as we copy it down. So to fix that, back here in our original formula, we're going to make that an absolute reference or a fixed reference. And to do that, you put dollar signs in front of the coordinates. And the J is a coordinate and the 2 is a coordinate. So the column coordinate, row coordinate. Okay. So you would just, in your formula, you would just modify that by saying $J, $2. Okay. So then what we're saying here is we still got I4, which is a relative reference, and J2, which is a absolute reference. So when we get this done, when we copy this down, it updated the relative reference and it changed it from I4 to I5, but it left it at J2. So it continues to refer back to that cell in the workbook. Yes?
By putting the my times in front of the J2,
right.
It's just said that you will always multiply the 8.
Right. You will always refer, wherever you copy that formula to, you still refer back to that one particular cell from that part of the formula.
So you could, in theory, change it, say it was K2.
Yeah, you can change anything you want. It's just the dollar sign says when you copy this formula, don't continue to point back to that cell. The other, if like in this one here, we didn't do that one here. So as we copied the formula down, it updated it all the time. Because what that's saying there is multiply by the cell to the left of where you are. And so it'll continue. So it'll continue down through there and do all that stuff for you. All right. So you can do this. Now this is good because we can leave sales tax on this in one place, and in our entire workbook we can continue to refer back to this cell. With doing just say J2, and you actually later. Well, it's not. You can do it from other sheets, other workbooks. And so if sales tax were ever to change, which we know it probably will at some point, then all you have to do is go to that one point in the workbook, change the number to say like 8 1/4, whatever, right? And then all your formulas are automatically updated and correct again. And so you don't, because see, then you don't have to go through all your formulas and hunt down where you got the 8% and all that sort of stuff. So that's, again, that's how errors get in there, because if you forget one place in the workbook, and remember, workbooks are going to get big, then you got problems. All right. So that's an absolute reference. Questions about that? Okay. There's one, well, okay. And then you can do the same here. I'm running out of time, so let's go on. There's a third kind called a mixed reference that you use rarely, but it generally in a table like this. So I want to calculate areas what basically I want to do is multiply the row number times the column number. Now I'm going to take those two like that, and then I'm just going to drag it down, and it's going to do the autofill thing. So I'll end up with a series of numbers between 1 and 5, like that. All right? And then I'll do the same for the column headers, like that. So now I just want to multiply the row number times the column number. Now, well, we could start off by trying this, right? We know this I'll just say multiply that number times that number. And that works fine for that formula, but obviously when I start copying this down, it's not going to work, right? It's just not going to work because, again, we're using relative references here. So we know that we always want to refer back to this cell up here, so we could try $U, $4. Like thus, and something went wrong. What did I do wrong? Oh, I got 2 U's in there. Okay, there we go. And then I could copy that down. And that's right for that column. Everybody with me here? Now then, if I want to go over to the next column, I'd have to write another formula like that, and I'd have to do that for each column. Okay. There's a better way to do this. We can use what are called mixed references. So I'm going to come back here and modify this formula one more time. Now, let's see, how do I do this? Okay. So if I wanted to copy that to the right, then I still want to multiply. Everything in this row should be multiplied by this, right? But then everything in this row should be multiplied by this. So this defines the row. I want to, okay. But I want to stay in this column as I come down. So I'm going to make the T, I'm going to say $T 5. Only half the coordinates have a $sign in front of it. So that part of the coordinate remains fixed, but the second part can move. It's relative. And then I've got to modify the other part of this because I want to stay in this column, but I don't want, I always want to stay in this row. The columns can move, but I want to stay in that row. So I'll take the $sign out in front of the U, and again, turn that into what's called a mixed reference, because I've got one absolute and one relative reference in it. Okay. Well, that's a good sign here. I got the right answer for this part. So then I can just copy this down. Well, let's go across. I'm just going to drag that. Again, all I did here was just grab that the drag handle, or the grab handle, and just drag it across. And that copies that formula across like that. And it looks like it did it right. And now all I have to do is put the cursor on the grab handle, double click, and it'll copy that all the way down. Well, it should. Yeah, it takes a few seconds for it to update the screen, but I'm done. Okay. So the idea here is to write the formula once and then copy it to wherever I need to be, because I don't want to spend a lot of time writing formulas. So I had to write a formula for each one of those cells. I'd invariably get one wrong. Even if I did it by column basis, I might screw up one column and stuff like that. So again, what we want to do here is set this thing up so that we only have to write the formula once. Questions about this stuff? Yes, I went over. All right, your turn. On the next tab, P1, practice 1, there's a set of little problems there for you to work on that have to do with referencing. So go ahead and give that a shot, and I'll wander around and give help where needed.